We just wanted good games. Was that too much to ask? Hello, my gaming brothers and sisters, and welcome back to the channel. As always, I am Jonathan, your host here at QuickBird Gaming, and I appreciate you tuning in for another episode of QuickBird News, where we cover all the gaming news of the week that's fit to cover. This episode is going to cover the week of 15 to 21 February, and we do have a few things to talk about. We have leaks of RE9, Resident Evil Requiem, have leaked online. Details about the plot and some of the game have leaked online. We have Bethesda sounding like they're backing away from a Starfield overhaul, which I'm sure will disappoint some folks. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. We'll revisit that. And then I'm going to round out the video with a couple of good news stories, things that I think were good news, good for players and good for the industry, and things you might not have heard of. As always, each story I talk about is timestamped in the description box down below. So if you're interested in something specific, feel free to scroll down, look for a specific story, and click on that and jump ahead to that story. But before I get to all that, we have got to talk about the state of the big publishers right now and what the hell is going on at Xbox and Sony. And this is just a mess. You know, every time I think these studios are going to pull back, if they're going to slam on the brakes before they drive over the cliff, they just hit the accelerator. And I don't know. I really do feel like some days that it is going to be up to the AA's and the indies to carry this industry out forward into the next 10, 15 years, because the AAA studios are all going to implode like a neutron star under the gravitational pull of their own stupidity. But anyway, let's just get into this. Okay, I'm going to start with the Xbox, just because this, I think, is the bigger piece of news. This all broke on Friday, the 20th of February, and I'm going to this Video Games Chronicle article from the same day. I mean, like I said, it just broke right in the later half of Friday at the end of the week. Huge Xbox shakeup. Phil Spencer retiring. Sarah Bond resigns. Microsoft AI boss becomes new Microsoft gaming CEO. Okay, Xbox is set to undergo huge management changes with Phil Spencer retiring. He'll step down as the Microsoft gaming CEO on Monday, February 23rd. So the day after this video is posted. So tomorrow, essentially. Spencer will be replaced by Asha Sharma, who joined Microsoft in 2024 as president of its Core AI product. Xbox president Sarah Bond, who some assumed was being prepared to succeed Spencer as Microsoft Gaming CEO, has reportedly resigned from her role. Xbox Studios head Matt Booty will also be promoted to Chief Content Officer, working alongside Sharma. Now, before we go any further, let's just talk about this. There's a lot of speculation going on about how this took place, the very sudden nature of it that saw not only Spencer immediately announce his retirement, but his deputy, whom, like the article says, many were assuming she was being groomed to take his spot, resigning at the same time. Some folks are saying that this was a resignation in name only, that they were being pushed out, both of them. I've seen people speculate that they are taking their golden parachute and bailing before this completely collapses. I don't know what the truth is. All I know is this was very surprising, caught a lot of folks off guard, as did the assignment or the hiring of this individual, Asha Sharma, as the new CEO. Okay, now we go scroll down further in this article. We get a whole bunch of stuff of, Phil Spencer talking about, they're all well wishing each other, blah 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 blah. Okay, now we get down here. Sharma has also reportedly emailed Microsoft staff explaining her expectations as she steps in simple role. My first job is simple: understand what makes this work and protect it. She said, Xbox has to make 3 commitments in order to ensure future success, the first being great games. We must have great games beloved by players before we do anything. Unforgettable character stories. Okay, empower our studios, invest in iconic franchise, back bold new ideas, take risks. It's all very corporate gobbledygook. Okay. She said the second commitment is the return of Xbox. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a thing. No, I didn't. I'll get to it. The second commitment, according to Sharma, is the return of Xbox while maintaining the brand's current policy of multi-format releases. So she says they're going to commit to console. Okay? We will see. Finally, she noted the Xbox will commit to the future of play Okay, this is what I was going to say a minute ago. Specifically knowing that Xbox would not focus on soulless AI slop, a notable comment giving the core AI role she's about to depart from. Okay, we will not treat these worlds as static IP to milk and monetize. We will build a shared platform and tools and so on and so forth. We will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. Okay, and then it goes into here and talks about Phil Spencer a little bit more and what he'd done, because this dude's been with the studio with Microsoft since 1988, almost 40 years. Now, I didn't necessarily always agree with Phil Spencer. I think he made a lot of poor decisions. Essentially, the gobbling up of so many studios, the billions of dollars spent on acquiring Activision Blizzard and Bethesda, ZeniMax, which have not really paid off, I don't think, for Microsoft yet. This is also the same guy that back in January of 2022 wanted a cross-platform ban list of games. He essentially wanted all the consoles and major publishers like Steam or platforms like Steam to get together and basically say if you were banned on one, you'd be banned on all of them, which I found to be pretty, I don't know, pretty dystopian, quite honestly, a little tyrannical, because the standards of them are different. And I don't need to get into that. So Phil Spencer wasn't always necessarily my favorite guy. One thing I will say, though, always, he is a gamer. He's always been a gamer. He's always, I think, had that aura about him that the guy actually did play games. I don't know if he played them well. I don't know if he knew as much as he should have in his position, but he did know games. I'm going to jump to this article here over on purexbox.com from today on Saturday the 21st. Who is Asha Sharma? A look back at the career of the new Xbox boss. Now, I'm going to just hit the highlights, so pay real close attention. Okay, let's see. Over the last 2 years at Microsoft and previously as COO at Instacart and Vice President at Meta, she helped build and scale services that reach billions of people, support thriving customers, develop ecosystems. She brings experience building and growing platforms, aligning business models to long-term value, operating at global scale. Okay, let's see. And this talks about her work with AI at Microsoft. Prior to working at Microsoft, the Xbox boss was indeed the CEO at grocery delivery and pickup service Instacart for 3 years. Prior to that, she was at Meta for 4 years. Going back even further, she helped launch the insurance company Porch Group while leading various aspects of business, including engineering, sales. Okay, and then she worked back for Microsoft back in 2011 to 2013. What did you not see on any part of her resume? No part of that roster. What did you see? Any experience with gaming? None whatsoever. What you did see are a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities where she was brought in to monetize, streamline, make things more efficient, and make them go faster. Her history, and I'm, this is it's predict. We can't always say what's going to happen, but I'm a believer that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And in this woman's case, her past behavior and her positions and her actions have put her at odds with the whole idea of we're not going to infuse AI slop in our games. Because what she's going to be looking to do is cut costs and probably cut personnel, although as of this day, no Xbox personnel have been informed of any layoffs, but we'll see how long that lasts. I give it less than 3 months before there are more layoffs somewhere across Xbox. She's going to look to cut costs, probably cut personnel, generate revenue. That's probably going to mean more live service attempts, more monetization. Yeah, I've heard I wish I could have found the tweet, but saw another guy who said she's excellent at building monetization ecosystems. Like, that's what we fucking need in our video games. More microtransactions, more battle passes, more slop designed just to separate us from our dollar without actually giving us the game experiences we want. And to this point, there's nothing that indicates she's ever been interested in games and ever had anything to do with games. There are some threads kicking around today about her Xbox profile, which seems to have miraculously sprouted about 5 or 6 weeks ago and has a whole bunch of gameplay hours on it. As somebody said, sounds like the interns are really working overtime for her. And as to her promise not to push AI into games, like as I mentioned a minute ago, that is completely at odds with her prior history of generating monetary value at the company she works for. And it was in a PC Gamer article, but one of the comments said something, and I'm going to paraphrase it too. Her promise about AI is the most empty promise since the Mustache Man promised not to have any further aggressive land grabs in Central Europe. This is just, I don't think this is going to work out very well, just based on, like I said, the past history. People are talking, I've seen the word nepotism a lot, which is technically not the right word because the head of Microsoft is Indian and so is she. It would be more tribalism if you wanted to be specific. Nepotism implies a family, and I don't think they're related. But people have said that this is a case of an Indian hiring an Indian, putting them in a position to keep it in the, quote, in the tribe. I don't care about that. I don't care that she's a woman. And none of that bothers me. What I want is somebody who actually wants to make good games. She can say that that's a priority for them all she wants, but until we see some concrete evidence that that's what she's doing, press X to doubt. This is the biggest press X to doubt minute I think I've reported on since I started this channel. I expect what's going to happen is going to be the exact opposite. I expect in a few years, maybe less, we'll be seeing reports that Xbox did in fact flood their games with AI slop. I mean, it's already somewhat going on over at Activision Blizzard. So, this is, I think, as I mentioned in my intro, this is Xbox putting the pedal down as they approach the cliff. Not hitting the brakes, not looking for an alternate route, but barreling towards the edge of, emptiness at maximum speed. I'm feel sorry for the people that are working there. I'm just glad I'm not one of them. And deciding that they did not want to be outdone by Xbox, Sony decided to get in on the foolishness. And I'm going to go to this PC Gamer article. This was from Thursday, the 19th of February. Bluepoint Games, Sony's famed remaster studio, is being closed as the fallout from PlayStation's disastrous pivot to live service continued. And disastrous is not too strong of a word. Sony has confirmed a Bloomberg report saying that Bluepoint Games, the Sony-owned studio known for its remasters of games including Shadow of the Colossus and Demon's Souls, is being closed in March and will roughly result in 70 people being put out to work. A Sony representative told PC Gamer, Bluepoint Games is an incredibly talented team, blah, blah, blah. The decision was made to close them in March. Okay, and they talk a little bit about some of the projects they worked on. More recently, Bluepoint was working on a live service God of War game, but Sony pulled the plug on that and several other projects following the disastrous release of Concord. Okay, so soak that in for a second. If you remember correctly, 2022, and this article also points that out, Sony said it wanted to have 12 live service games running by 2025. They ended up canceling a whole bunch of them, but there are still some going. And I'm going to just use this one as an example to launch into this broader point here. This is actually an article from Vice back from February 9th. What does the Horizon Hunters Gathering reveal mean for Horizon 3? And if you don't know, Horizon Hunters Gathering is set in the Horizon Zero Dawn universe, and it features a motley crew of hunters who, it's a co-op game to go out and fight robots, and there aren't a whole lot of details on the exact mechanics of the game, but that's what it looks like. It looks like a PvE co-op game with, I think, up to three or four players. You pick from your kind of a hero roster to go out and do stuff. Yeah, see, a cooperative action game, up to 3 players, to protect the world, combat is tactive, blah, 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 blah. Set in the Horizon universe with all of the tropes, the dinosaur robots, fighting with your spear and bow and so on and so forth. And goes through that. And then it comes down here and says in the same article, has Horizon 3 been confirmed yet? Now, bear in mind, Guerrilla is best known recently, at least, for the Horizon Zero Dawn, for Horizon Forbidden West, single-player games featuring Aloy on the screen here as the protagonist. Now they, like Bluepoint in the previous article, are being pivoted and swung to do a live service, online persistent type of game. Bluepoint was working on a God of War type of game. After they had done the God of War remasters 1 and 2, back, I think it was for the PlayStation 4. And now a Guerrilla, who is doing single-player games, is now having to do an online game as well. Okay, at this point, Sony and Guerrilla have not revealed Horizon 3. Without getting into spoiler territory, it's safe to say Forbidden West left it open-ended. Rumors and inside leaks suggest there's work being done on Horizon 3, but the majority of the team at Guerrilla are focused on Horizon Hunters Gathering. In response to the reveal, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier explained he believes most of the studio is on this, and that means that if there's going to be a Horizon 3, it's a little ways off. Now, my broader point here is this. Sony has gone so in on live service games, they're actually kneecapping themselves with studios who primarily don't make those. Bluepoint was a very well-known studio, at least in the remaster space. This announcement took a lot of people off guard. People were very surprised by this, considering some of the shit Sony has done, including some of the money they have spent and wasted on things like Concord and Firewatch Studio. Hundreds of millions of dollars that they've thrown into this. Sony owns Bungie. Marathon is going to be out soon. I don't remember the exact date, but I know it's coming up soon. And after the failure of Highguard, people are calling Marathon Concord 3.0. Now, I'm not sure that's the case. I think Marathon has done a lot to recover from the problems they were having last year. Recent playtests, from what I've seen, have gone better. This could go either way, in my opinion. The cynicism could still drag it down, but if a game, Bungie is well known as you know, from their old Halo days, pre-orders seem to be good on this game. If the game comes out and it is good quality, you know, that may be okay. If it fails, that's probably the end of Bungie too. You have Guerrilla working on this live service game. For various reasons, it's already splitting the fandom. And we don't need to get into why. Just various things involving gameplay, character design, and so forth. It's already splitting the fandom. If this fails, it could drag Guerrilla down. You still have this Fair Games, you know, loot from the rich live service game that has been out there. About 6 months ago, they went through a bunch of upheavals. They lost their game director. I think the head of the studio stepped down. There were rumors it was canceled. Sony's confirmed, has come back and said it's not canceled, but we've heard nothing about it. It's been total radio silence on that game since then, and that was 6 months ago. So who knows what's going on? But you know, that's another 6 months of development and money being thrown into it. You've got all these live service games where these Sony-owned studios are literally hanging in the balance as to whether or not they're going to survive. Now, it was announced at the PlayStation State of Play last week, and I covered it in last week's Quick Bird News, gaming news video, that Sony Santa Monica, I think that's the studio name, is working on remakes of the God of War 1, 2, and 3, and bringing them up to PS5 level. Single-player games, and people seem to be relatively excited about them. I'm not sure where this disconnect is. Sony has just got this absolute bee in its bonnet about live service games, despite the continued failure. And it's very possible, I don't know how likely it is, but between Marathon and Horizon Hunters Gathering and Fair Games, it's very possible they could be looking at 3 more major live service failures in the next 12 to 18 months. And if that happens, what's going to happen to those studios? They're probably going to go too. And so, like Xbox, Sony is barreling towards the cliff, pressing their foot on the accelerator. My question is just a matter of who's going to go over first. Okay, and then the third layer of our triple decker shit sandwich this week comes this article from Video Games Chronicle. Now, this was posted actually back on Tuesday the 17th. Steam Deck is out of stock in the US as Valve warns of intermittent memory and storage shortages. The increased cost of RAM is making tech more expensive. Now, at the time this was posted, it was saying that it was out of stock in the US, but things have gotten worse. We're here to this Game Rant article, and this was published today on Saturday the 21st as I'm making this video to go up tomorrow. It says customers looking to buy a Steam Deck are running out of places to do so. As a new report indicated, the popular handheld has sold out in more regions than previously stated. Okay, it talks about the LCD and OLED versions. The 256 LCD has ceased production, so it's sold out and it's going to be out. But then down here it says the OLED was completely sold out across the US. According to Game on Linux report, Steam Deck OLED is now sold out across the European Union and nations like Poland, alongside US, Canada, Japan. The LCD model is sold out across the EU and Asia, with stocks in North America being completely depleted. Now, obviously, the same thing that's going on with all of the hardware crunch right now, specifically for RAM and storage, and that is the massive gobbling up by companies trying to build their AI data centers. And this is not just hitting the Steam Deck, it's also hitting the Steam machine, which has seen its release pushed back because, and it's probably going to see a price hike on it too. Sony has announced that they are pushing back the PS6 to at least 2028 to account for this. Nintendo hasn't said the Switch 2 is going up in price yet, but I think it's just a matter of time, just as a physical reality. You know, when the prices of RAM has doubled or tripled or more over the last 6 months, I think it's just a matter of time that all of this hardware is going to start getting more expensive. And this is unfortunate. Now, unlike my previous two examples where the game companies are doing it to themselves, this is being driven by, outside sources, AI. Oh yeah, AI lady, the stuff you're doing is what's helping cause this. Anyway, so this is just putting this out there that if you want a Steam Deck or a Steam machine, you're SOL along with the rest of us, unfortunately. And I don't see this situation getting better soon. I think eventually it will. I think eventually, they'll reach saturation at some point and will start to slow down. I wonder, though, what the long-term scars on the industry are going to look like. You've already had Micron, who said they're getting out of doing consumer-based production. They're only producing for corporate and industrial clients now. Are other companies going to follow suit? Are we going to be left with no sources for the consumer lines? I think this is going to be one of those things where the industry will never quite be the same again after this is over. So, yeah. Between the AAA companies race to the bottom and the price of everything going online or going higher and higher for hardware, the future has going to have some road bumps. Okay, I want to get away from talking about studios and hardware and actually talk about a few game things. I'm going to talk about this Eurogamer article from Thursday the 19th. Watch out, Resident Evil Requiem's ending is being spoiled online as Capcom fights to clean up leaks. Essentially what has happened is players have gotten a hold of copies early, physical copies early. I believe it says down here. Yes, this comes after physical versions of the game were obtained early by some members of the public earlier this week. And so all the details about the games, some of the twists and turns in the story are starting to leak online. I'm not going to provide any spoilers here. I haven't seen them myself. I haven't gone looking for them, but I put this up as a warning that if you are interested in this game and you don't want to have it spoiled, just beware as you're out surfing, because it can pop up in comment sections and things like that. So just something to be aware of. As of the posting of this video, the game comes out in 5 days. I'm sure it's going to be a mega hit. Really, whether it's a great Resident Evil entry or not, I'm sure the interest and the hype is going to result in it selling tons of copies. But I suspect it's going to be very crowd pleasing just based on what I've seen. So anyway, just be aware and know that some of those leaks are out there. If you all have been watching the channel, you may remember I covered this a couple of weeks ago. It was an Insider Gaming article that said Starfield 2.0 could be real after all. And I thought at the time, well, that would be great news for fans of that game. Well, unfortunately, we'll cut to today in this TweetTown article from Thursday the 19th. Bethesda not interested in writing Starfield's big comeback story. No major overhauls planned. Todd Howard confirms Bethesda is not making any sort of major overhaul to Starfield, and future content is aimed at people who already like the RPG. That pretty much, the headline says everything that's in here. Todd Howard states new content will enhance the experience for existing fans, won't fundamentally change the game or attract those who didn't connect with it initially. So it sounds like, according to Todd Howard, that this game is not going to be getting that kind of overhaul, which is actually really disappointing. You know, Starfield was Bethesda's first new IP in how many years, after they got past Elder Scrolls and Fallout, neither of which have seen a game in over 10 years either. But Starfield comes out, and it wasn't met with a whole lot of success. You can go to the Steam page and look, and it is 57% overall positive ratings, 56 in the last 30 days. So just barely over half of people have a positive impression of this game. And for a major AAA studio, 57% on a game is absolute dog shit. And they know it, and we know it. And it's shown in the game numbers. And go to the Steam database and look, and they've got, they got a couple thousand people still playing. Basically lost about 99% of their player base in the last couple of years. Not that unusual, but I look at the ratings at, say, Fallout 4, which suffered a whole lot of problems and abuse after the anniversary updates, the ones that broke all the mods and everything. That game is still sitting at an 81% favorable rating. Even with that, even with some of the missteps Bethesda's made lately, it was still doing pretty good. But Starfield never had that. Now, this game could have had a redemption story like Cyberpunk, but it just doesn't seem like it's to be. Now, I'm not going to say it's a failure financially, because I guarantee you Bethesda made a ton of money on this. They sold 10 plus million copies. They made their money on this and then some. But what it did is it eroded a lot of trust in Bethesda, trust that was already kind of lingering to begin with, or fading, I should say, not lingering, because if you think about Fallout 4, while it was widely received by the normie audience, a lot of Fallout fans didn't like it. Kind of the same thing happened with Skyrim. People who were really in love with Morrowind and to some degree Oblivion were put off by Skyrim's more accessible nature. That may not be the best way to describe it, but that I'm lacking the correct term, I think, to actually describe it. But they were put off by it as well. And I think Starfield has continued to just chip away. Bethesda really hasn't had a full success story in a while. I mean, they kind of rehabbed Fallout 76. This could have been another one if they wanted to do it. And I would say, okay, fine, don't rehab Starfield, press forward. But when are you going to do something? We are, 8 years now or longer past the Elder Scrolls 6 teaser, if you want to call it that. There's no news on Fallout 5. So, if you're not doing Starfield, just what the hell are you guys doing? Are you surprised? I'm not. This IGN article was posted on Tuesday the 17th. Tencent was quietly backing Highguard Studio, according to report. Well, now we at least know why they got that final spot at the Game Awards, since Tencent's heavily invested in that too. Okay, I'm going to get away from the bad news and wrap this up with 3 stories that I think are worth touching on, because I think they're all good things. We'll start with this Eurogamer article from Monday the 16th. This is made to be a premium experience. Crimson Desert has no microtransactions despite its Black Desert Online pedigree, says Pearl Abyss. Crimson Desert is steadily becoming one of 2026's open world games to watch out for, with the March release date now locked, March 19th. So check it out. Lots of people are still considering making a trip, so on and so forth. Of course, large numbers of microtransactions and cosmetics are to be expected anytime a game's model is free to play, and Pearl Abyss's PR and marketing directors reminded everyone during their appearance, that's a monetization model if you do free to play, and here he's referring to Black Desert Online, then you need to make up the revenue a different way. Okay? And it says you can't blame veterans for thinking even a strictly single-player game like Crimson Desert could be filled with microtransactions. However, Will Powers shot this down immediately. This is made to be a premium experience that you will buy and enjoy the world, and not something for microtransactions. Shocking, right? The fact that, we have this experience and they're not going to try and nickel and dime you to death. Remains to be seen if Crimson Desert is going to be able to pull off the ambitious scope that it is trying to achieve here. There's a lot of going on in this game, a lot of moving parts, but I think this is a good sign, and I'm going to give them a thumbs up for it. Next, I want to look at this Game Rant article from Friday the 20th. Square Enix just teased a Nier Automata sequel, and I can't wait. Okay, Japanese publisher Square Enix has just dropped a teaser for the long-awaited sequel to Nier Automata, developed by Platinum Games 2017. Nier serves as a follow-up to the 2010 Project Nier, a cult classic spun off from Drakengard, etc., etc. Okay, going on to be a smash hit. The title also recently surpassed 10 million copies sold, a level of commercial popularity Nier and Drakengard never received. Now it comes down here and says the celebration video teases the future of the franchise. This came as part of the promotional trailer, which concluded with the words Nier Automata to be continued. They were coy on whether the story would continue in the form of a sequel, spin-off title, or a new game altogether. Now, of course, this just set everybody talking about this and in the best possible way. I played this game last year. No, I guess it's has it been 2 years now? I don't know. I played it within the last couple of years. Really liked it. It is a lot of fun. It's different. It's entirely different than, narratively, especially than anything else I've played. And I would really love to see where they can take this franchise from here. So this is, I think, is good, and I hope it comes to fruition. Finally, I want to talk about this Insider Gaming article from Friday the 20th. Nioh 3 has sold 1 million units globally. If you're unaware, Nioh is kind of an open world Souls-like series that is got a very Eastern Oriental feel to it by Koei Tecmo, and I guess you could call it an RPG, but it sold 1 million units. It just released this month. It's doing quite well, and they said that this is the fastest. Let's see, where was it? Okay, yeah, sold 1 million units globally. Is the fastest selling title in the series. So doing quite well. You can see it's reviewed very well. And if we go over to the Steam page, it's sitting at an 83% positive. When I skim through the reviews, just briefly, anecdotally, most of the negative reviews seem to be focused on performance yet again, controller issues, and graphic stuttering, that kind of thing. Again, PC ports. Always optimization seems to be an issue. There's not a whole lot of complaining about the game. People went into this expecting a specific experience, and they seem to have gotten it. So I like seeing games that the player base generally really likes do really well. So for me, this is yet another win. All right, I think that's enough out of me for tonight. Yeah, I'm disappointed in the way some of these AAA studios are handling business, but I think as long as we've got the double A's and the indies to sustain us, gamers will continue to be eating good for a while. If we can afford the hardware, that is. As always, if you enjoyed this video, I please ask you to do the YouTube stuff. Please leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. Let me know if you think I missed a major news story this week or didn't talk about enough, or if you agree or disagree. I just love to have the discourse around games. If you are enjoying this content, please hit the bell so you'll be notified whenever I post something new. And if you would like to subscribe, I would love to have you do that. It's just one click. I appreciate it, and it helps me out a whole lot to help grow the channel and keep doing this. So I'm not sure when I'm going to be posting again. I got a busy week coming up. I actually have my nephew's wedding in a couple of days. I'm going to. And no, before you ask, I don't think he watches the channel. I don't think he even knows about it because I don't talk about it a whole lot with my family because it's just something I do because I enjoy it. But in any event, it's going to be a busy week. I will for sure be back next week with more quick bird news, more game news to talk about and see how, what part of this industry wants to set itself on fire this time. So until then, thank you for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. You all go out there, live your best lives, and you all stay gaming.